Hello students, learn fluid mosaic model of plasma membrane through this video. The fluid mosaic model was proposed by Singer and Nicholson in 1972, and this is the most accepted model to explain the structure of plasma membrane. First see these two pictures. This is a scenery and this is a picture of a turtle. Both these pictures are formed by mosaic of tiles. Similarly, according to fluid mosaic model, the plasma membrane is a mosaic of components including phospholipids, cholesterol, these two are lipids, and then proteins and carbohydrates. Now let us see how these components are arranged in the plasma membrane according to fluid mosaic model. First, lipids. Lipids are quasi-fluid in nature, means they are neither completely solid and nor completely liquid. And two types of lipids which are present in the plasma membrane are phospholipids and cholesterol. Now let us see how they are arranged in the plasma membrane according to this model. First component is phospholipid. Phospholipids are amphipathic molecules with hydrophilic and hydrophobic ends. See this diagram? This is hydrophilic end and this is the hydrophobic end. Actually, phospholipid is a phosphoglyceride. See this diagram where phosphate group along with two fatty acids which may be saturated or which may be unsaturated are attached to a glycerol molecule. Here glycerol, this glycerol and phosphate, they together form the hydrophilic or water lover or polar end or head, while the two fatty acid chains form hydrophobic or water hater or non-polar end or tail of phospholipid. Phospholipids are arranged in bilayer as shown here. Here head or, this is the head or hydrophilic region is towards outside. Okay, means either towards the extracellular fluid or towards the cytoplasm, while tail or hydrophobic region is towards inner side. Clear? So there is head, tail, tail, head. So they are arranged in bilayer. Phospholipids show two types of movements. First is transition movements, when these molecules move in the same leaf layer. See this diagram. If second phospholipid moves towards the fifth phospholipid and fifth phospholipid moves towards the second phospholipid, this type of movement is called as lateral movement or transition movement. Second movement is flip-flop movement, when phospholipid moves between two layers. See the diagram. If second phospholipid moves towards the B phospholipid and B moves towards the second phospholipid, this movement is called as flip-flop movement. So, phospholipid bilayer is actually fluidy. Next lipid component of the membrane is cholesterol. It is located between the phospholipids and phospholipid bilayer. See the location in the diagram. These brown color structure are cholesterol present between the phospholipid layer. The cholesterol helps the plasma membrane to retain its fluidity. Third component of plasma membrane is protein. Depending on the ease of extraction, or you can say how easily they can be separated or extracted from the membrane, there are two types of proteins. First is extrinsic or peripheral proteins which lie on the surface of the membrane. Second is intrinsic or integral proteins which are partially or totally buried in the membrane. See this diagram. These are extrinsic proteins which lie on the surface of the membrane. This one and this one, they are integral proteins. This one and this one, they are partially buried proteins, integral proteins, and this one is the completely buried intrinsic protein. Due to quasi-fluid nature of lipids, these proteins show lateral movements within overall bilayer. See this picture where icebergs are floating in the sea. In the similar way, proteins float in the lipid. So, this model is described as protein icebergs floating in the sea of lipid. Fourth component is carbohydrates, which are always found on exterior surface of the cell towards extracellular fluid. They are not present towards the cytoplasm, they are always present towards the extracellular fluid. They may be branched or unbranched chains of oligosaccharides and are associated with either lipids. They are called as glycolipids. Here you can see in the diagram, this is glycolipid, this is lipid, this is carbohydrate chain. They together form the glycolipid. Or they may be associated with proteins to form glycoproteins. See here, this is glycoprotein, this is protein, this is the carbohydrate. They together form the glycoprotein. Now, what is the use of these carbohydrates? They help in cell-to-cell recognition. Now, functions of plasma membrane. As plasma membrane is fluid in nature, this is important to perform functions like cell growth, formation of intercellular junctions, secretion, endocytosis, and cell division. And one most important function of plasma membrane is transport of molecules across the membrane. Plasma membrane is actually a selectively permeable membrane or semi-permeable membrane. It allows entry and exit of only certain molecules through it. How this transport takes place? There are two major types of transport of molecules across the membrane. They are A. Passive transport and B. Active transport. In passive transport, no energy is required. Neutral solutes move across the membrane along concentration gradient, means these solutes move from higher concentration to lower concentration. See this diagram. Here, these neutral solutes are moving across the membrane from higher concentration to lower concentration, and this type of movement is called as simple diffusion. Also, diffusion of water across membrane from higher water concentration to lower water concentration takes place, and this is called as osmosis. Here also no energy is required. Since water is a polar molecule, they diffuse very slowly across the membrane. To speed up the movement of water molecule, special protein channels called aquaporins are required. See this diagram. This is an aquaporin, a protein channel which speeds up water movement from higher water concentration to lower water concentration, and this type of movement is called as facilitated diffusion, as it is speed up by the use of protein channels. Now come to second type of transport, that is active transport, where energy is required in the form of ATP. Here the movement of molecules takes place against concentration gradient, means these molecules move from lower concentration to higher concentration and required ATP as a source of energy. See this diagram. This is again a special type of protein channel which allows the movement of molecules from lower concentration to higher concentration by using ATP. This type of movement is called as active transport. An example of this is sodium potassium pump, which allows the movement of sodium ion and potassium ion across the membrane. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for staying with me. Subscribe the channel to get the information about my new video. Thank you so much.